All right, welcome to the Friday edition
Woo!
of Freedom Brigade Nation. We have with us today our favorite national committee woman. Okay, I have to say, except for Oklahoma, I love Karen too, right? I live next to her, but so one of our two favorite. How's that? Amy Kremer is with us from Georgia again. Welcome back, Amy.
Oh, thanks for having me, Charity. I'm excited to be here, and you're going to get yourself in trouble with that statement because we do have some pretty good
I
committee women.
know. I'm thinking like we got Fanchon. She's pretty amazing. We as well. You know
Debbie,
what? I better not start with the names. I'm going to get myself
yeah,
in trouble and leave somebody out.
Debbie, Christy, yeah.
Debbie
There's some really
Georgiados,
good
yes.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We get yes, amazing, amazing people. Um, Actually, I wanted to bring you on to talk about that. We do have a lot of national committee people that are top notch. We have some state chairmen that are top notch when you go to the RNC, right? So,
Right.
for the people that don't know how the Republican Party, they think the RNC is made up of your state leaders that you elect at your convention. Your state leaders, the three that go that are part of the RNC are your state chairman, your national committee man, and your national committee woman, and they represent you on the national level. But I have had several people that have been not excited about the way the country is going, which I think is fantastic for the record. But they say, the party doesn't represent us anymore. And so they're like, I've left the party. I'm going independent. I'm going, and I said this to a reporter. I haven't got myself in trouble with it yet because she didn't quote me. I said, well, I think that's the weenie way out. The Republican Party, if you look at the platform and the values, those are the values we believe in. And so what we need to do if you don't feel like you're being represented where you're at, then you need to have the power to change that. It's just like representation in your legislature, in your city council. Go to your Republican meetings and run for county chair, or find
Right.
a county chair you can get behind, or communicate with your county chair what it is you expect. And then they go and represent that at the state. And then the state represents it. It decides who the representatives are to represent it in the nation. But we have to take it back. And I think the Republican Party is the best way to take the country back and to get our
I
freedom
mean,
back.
Charity, what's the alternative? The Democrat Party? I'm sorry, but like, I don't do crack, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, the Republican Party is the only platform, the only party out there that I know fits my values and my views and most people I know. Um, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Let's be real. And you can talk about it from a national level, or you can talk about it from a state level, or all the way down to the county level. It's not perfect. But what are you going to do? Sit on the sidelines and complain? Because that's not the way you affect change. The reason you and I are both here, you're now chair, former committee woman, I'm the committee woman for Georgia, is because we were on the sidelines doing our own thing, being active in our
Right.
own way, doing different things. And we got involved because we wanted to affect change. We're a lot alike. I didn't come here because I wanted to become part of the cocktail circuit or, sit in an ivory tower somewhere and snub my nose at the grassroots or whatever. I got involved to give the grassroots a voice at the national level. I want the party to represent the people. And so the only way I knew to do that is to run, get elected, and to change it from the inside. You cannot change it from the outside. And that's why you have people like you and I involved, because after President Trump ran in 2024 and he
Yeah.
won his reelection, I mean, leading up to that, we got involved to give those people, the MAGA movement, a voice and a say in the party. And that's why we're here on the inside. Now, is it easy? I mean, I can't say that it's been easy. Um, there, there are definitely things that still need to change, but at least we're on the inside, and there are a good number of us. I mean, 47 people came in our class, right?
Yeah.
On President Trump's coattails, 47 of us. I would say the majority, almost all of us MAGA. And since then, we've had even more people come in that are MAGA. This party is more MAGA than it's ever been before. This is not, and I don't say this, this is not the party of, Ronna McDaniel anymore. Um,
Right.
this is a party that people who love President Trump, who worked our asses off for President Trump, and we're now here to make sure that this RNC does not work against him, stab him in the back, and give a voice to the people out there, all across the country. And that's what we're trying to do. And that started with President Trump. But look, there is change that still needs to happen, especially on a county level and a state level for certain.
Yeah.
And we need more people at the RNC on a national level to represent the people. So it's tireless, it's thankless.
Yeah.
It costs us a lot of money, but we're always working towards the greater good, right?
And that's what it takes. I don't think we leave the party. There's been times I was frustrated. As a matter of fact, the reason I got so involved is we had actually it was the national committee woman at the time come to my county right after the 2020 election, and I was telling everyone, okay, guys, these politicians are coming through. Ask them if the election was stolen. Right there, that
Right.
one answer will tell you who is and isn't a rhino, and we can be done with this conversation. Everything else they say is not relevant because
Mhm.
it'll tell you what side they're on.
Right.
And she came and as our national committee woman chastised the whole group saying, "Well, how dare you say that this was stolen?" And just went into it. And it's the only time I've ever walked out in the middle of someone speaking. And I
Wow.
even said, "When is she up for election? I'm going to take her out." I was so mad. But that was when I decided I have to get involved because the people elected are not standing up for us. And so, and I know that but what I didn't say is I'm going to leave the party. This is the vehicle to take the country back. And if it's swampy where you're at, then you have to clean it up. And what that looks like is something that you have to be led by God through. But we need to take responsibility for our party. And it's if these are the values you represent, then represent these values and hold them accountable, just like you would any other elected office, because we need the party to be strong right now more than ever. You
Yeah.
know, we could have had people get upset with Trump, and I actually back what he's doing with Iran. I know other people have different opinions. I don't really care to get into that. What I always say is you could have had Kamala. Is that
Well,
really the
that's the whole
option?
thing. That's what I was going to
Right?
say is look at the alternative. We could have had Kamala.
Well,
This
and
word salad.
yeah, and we had Mel K, the amazing Mel K, on Tom's show last night. She just put out a new book, and she really breaks this down too, very black and white, simple for people to understand. And she went into, because a lot of people talk about the threat of communism from the CCP and how that's one of the biggest things that we should be concerned about. She kept kind of going back and forth with Tom on it and saying, you know what the biggest threat to our democracy is today is the Democratic Party, and she calls them the Democrat, Communist, Socialist, Marxist,
Right.
takeover. They're the biggest threat because they are inside infiltrating our society with the intent. We're fighting the Sharia law stuff and all this stuff. They have the intent to uproot our Constitution and to destroy our country. So the Democratic Party is not an option. It's just not. And it's the
Right.
biggest threat to our democracy today.
And Andrea, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. But I want to also, I want to take it to a next level.
Mm-hmm. Please do.
My frustration, look, the Democrats are psycho. They're crazy.
Yeah.
They're off the reservation. I mean, totally off the reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And all you have to do is look no further than what just happened in Virginia. They spent 60, 70, I don't know how many millions of dollars to redraw their maps, and then they're overturned by the Virginia Supreme Court. Now what they're talking about doing is they're talking about redoing their state constitution and lowering the level for the maximum age for the justices. I think there's 4 justices on the Virginia Supreme Court, in order to get new justices on the court and overturn that decision. My point about that, the reason I bring that up is, first of all, it's just diabolical that they're even talking about doing it, and they're talking about it publicly. But the other piece of it is that Republicans, these institutionalists that are so resistant to change, the John Thunes of the world, better get with the program, because if we don't get rid of the filibuster and get some of these things through, like the Save America Act, if and when we lose the House and the Senate, we know exactly what they're going to do. They're not just, out there talking about it in abstract forms. They're telling you exactly what they're going to do. And we have one chance. And if you truly love this country and want to save this country and preserve the liberty and freedom that we do have, then now is the time to act, because we are running out of time, and the Democrats have a whole different agenda. And I guarantee you, even I saw Kamala on TV earlier this morning when I was getting ready. Kamala was talking about the Supreme Court and packing the Supreme Court. I mean, do you not think the Democrats are going to change the filibuster? They're going to change the filibuster, and they're going to they are going to do everything they can to expand the court. And why are they going to do that? Because they don't like the decisions coming out of the Supreme Court right now. So they're going to pack the court with their people so that they can get the decisions they want, so that they can take over America and actually turn us into that socialist, Democrat, Marxist, communist society that they so want. That's exactly what they're going to do. And John Thune, I'm sorry, I respect the office. I know he was elected, and I know that, he has been elected leader, but he needs to get his head out of the sand, and he needs to lead, because this is a time that needs leadership. And him sitting on his sands and saying we need to protect the institution is not going to cut it, because the Democrats are about to destroy the institution.
The institution has failed us, right? So, for instance, as the state chair, I endorsed in a congressional race here. The institution, the status quo Republicans got very angry. The Patriots were so thankful and were so happy. The status quo is not working. And
because they want power, right?
That's it. Well, it's interesting. You said what they're trying to do. We've got to stay to the 9 Supreme Court justices. We've got to keep it at that. Very interestingly, the same kind of Republicans that it's interesting. A lot of not all, but a lot of the swampy type Republicans have the same things. They do this. They have the same way that they do things as the Democrats. The packing the court, we just had a very similar situation with the trust here, where they tried to pack the trust and remove the voices of the actual Republican Party. And it's a different issue, but it's interesting that it's the same tactics used by people that call themselves Republicans. It's interesting across the board. And what you're saying about no matter what they do, we know what the Democrats are going to do. The Republican Party has been so infiltrated, we're not really sure what they'll do unless you know them well. And so we have to be really careful. You need to be vetting. You need to be, if you have a state that allows it, you need to be endorsing and saying, hey, this one's an actual patriot. And we need to be saying something, because we've got to have people that actually stand for the values in our platform.
And we need leaders like you, Charity, and thank you for doing that. You have the biggest balls in the room. I'm sorry, both you women are the strongest voices that I've seen out there fighting this crap. But you stood in the flame on that. And guess what? I want my leaders to talk about who they are backing and why. And I always talk about how I was at one of my GOP meetings when I was working on a campaign, and I took the microphone and I asked, hey, who's voting for whom, kind of thing. And I wanted to talk about, like, who are you supporting and why? And I got pushed back, and I'm not in office. I was a consultant. I got pushed back. They said, Andrew, we can't have these conversations like this. And I said, if I can't have a conversation with everyone in my GOP, my county, about who they're voting for and why, then where am I going to have that conversation? Our leaders vote. I'm pretty sure they go and they vote. I want to know who's passing the snuff for Charity Lynch. If I was living in Oklahoma, I would want to know who she's supporting and why.
And
why can't we talk about that?
I
Even
think
President Trump
honestly,
endorsed this guy. I mean, Speaker Mike Johnson just endorsed the
are you
same
talking about
guy.
Jackson
Yeah.
Lohmeyer?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I love Jackson
Yeah,
Lohmeyer.
I
I
do
love
too.
him too. Yeah.
He's amazing. Yeah, but I
And
mean,
I
we want you to
can't,
do that.
I
You
mean,
aren't. I'm
I
sorry.
cannot, yeah, I cannot. I mean, Georgia, it is written into our rules. We
Yeah,
cannot
that you
endorse.
can't.
We
Sure,
cannot use our
absolutely.
position to endorse. Um, the only endorsement I've made this cycle, I did it in my own capacity, and it's Chip Roy for the Attorney General of
Yeah.
Texas. My God, we need Chip to win. And I'm
Yes.
just going to say it in my own capacity, not in any official capacity whatsoever, not using my title. Amy Kremer endorses Ken Paxton for Senate in Texas, and Chip Roy for Attorney General. And the reason, especially the Attorney General race, that race is so important. It's not just the Attorney General of Texas. That office is like the bully pulpit, and its proximity, it's being able to get things to the Fifth Circuit court, and then all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And generally speaking, the the Attorney General in Texas has more power than, say, the Attorney General in Georgia, and so he stands on his own, and he can go. I mean, listen, Ken Paxton, when the election was stolen in 2020. Ken Paxton led the effort to, to file the lawsuit with the 20-something states, at the U.S. Supreme Court. Those two races are so important. And I think it is great that you endorse Jackson Lohmeyer. And Andrea, what you're saying is I do think you have a right to know. It's just like, I believe that when we vote here at the RNC, it should be a public vote and it should be on the record. And the reason I believe that is because we have a constituency. We answer to a constituency.
Yes.
And if my constituents want to know how I'm voting, then I have a right to tell them. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm endorsing those candidates, but this is who I'm voting for, right?
Yeah, I mean, even me, in my capacity, people ask, they go, Andrea, I would love for you to put out a voter guide every year in your state. Because people call me up around election time and go, Andrea, what about this? And what about this? And they want to talk to people because most people are busy trying to feed their families, working all the time. They don't live in this space like us. So they look to us, the people that they trust and have integrity in the space, and they want to know your opinion. And I'm just going to talk about my endorsements. I mean, we've got Paul Renner in Florida, super, super important. I love Paul Renner, and a lot of people in Florida are not hearing about him because, again, we all know why, right? And then what is it, South Carolina, Mark Lynch. We got to get rid of Lindsay, right? And he's amazing. So I just wanted to throw those names out there too. And it's like I follow it across the country because I care about my country. I have kids. I don't want to lose my country to these communists, takeover, crazy Democrats. And so I thought it was wild for someone like me, just a person at a meeting, casually saying, hey, who are you voting for and why? And I had people pull me aside after that meeting and just basically threatened to throw me out of the room because they said that I'm not allowed to ask that question. And I said, if we can't talk about it here, it was shocking to me. Yeah.
No, but that's typical Republican Party politics, right? They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to have those discussions. And the reality is, I mean, like I said, I go back to my constituents have a right to know. If any of my constituents ask me, who are you voting for? I would feel obliged to tell them because they do have a right to know. Yes, as a citizen, it is my right, to be able to cast my ballot and a private ballot and nobody know. But I do feel like I represent these people. They respected me and trusted me enough to put me into office that why should I hide that from them? And I mean, that's how I feel about it. I feel very strongly about that. But the party's position is, let the primaries play out. And then we all get behind the Republicans and we see kumbaya and everybody goes forward together.
How's that working out for you, America? How is that status quo working out for you?
And it goes to control and power, Charity.
Yes,
that's what I mean.
I do want to give hope, though, as we're at the RNC and I'm looking around the room. I am seeing a lot of patriots. There are a lot of people like myself, like Amy, that have said, man, this isn't really what I sought out to do, but I feel like I'm supposed to be doing this. I feel like the Lord is calling me. I feel like that I want to make a difference in the country. And I feel like I need to be here, whether I want to be here or not. And so there's less and less of those that see it as just a status symbol and more of seeing it as people who actually want to make a difference. And we're not looking to disrupt anything. We're just looking to stand up. I think America has had it with the status quo.
Wait, wasn't it you and I? Weren't we labeled dark MAGA?
Yeah.
Yes, we were labeled dark MAGA at the RNC. I think it was because I remember it. It was last year. It was a year ago at spring training at Trump Doral, because I was horrified when I got to the cocktail reception that night and one of our, great committee women came up and said, "Oh, there are people over there talking about you and bad mouthing you." And I'm like, "What are they saying?" And she said that you're dark MAGA. So I went back to my room that night and I'm like, what the heck is dark MAGA? And that was before Trump and Elon had their falling out. And my husband was like, I don't know, but Elon's dark MAGA, so I guess that's a good thing. But come to find out, a couple of days later, before we left spring break, or spring training, dark MAGA is you're just here to burn the party down.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. There's nothing further from the truth.
That's
and you
true.
know who's that's coming from? That is coming from the people that we've defeated and we've replaced because they've lost their
that have actually tried to burn the party down. For the record, I could tell you stories since I've been chair of different things they've done. They really want the party to burn down before they lose control.
Well, and it's all about prestige and about title and putting it on your resume. And look, I don't need this position. I pay a lot of money to be here. The Republican Party and the powers that be never helped me do anything. I got here on my own. Charity, you can say the same thing. We owe them
Yes,
nothing.
I got no help.
Yes, and if you think this is prestigious and
glamorous,
yes, and glamorous, I mean, by all means, have at it, because that is not why we're here. And we're not here to burn the party down either.
No.
We're here to give the people a voice and to make sure that this RNC does not stab Donald Trump in the back.
Yeah, and I think that we do have some good people, really. I think the RNC is headed in the right direction, but I hear a lot of these people saying, I'm switching parties. I'm asking you, if you are not happy with it, don't take the weenie way out and switch parties, because there's not an independent party.
Another party. No.
You've got to help take back the Republican Party and have it stand for your values if they're not doing that in your state. I am seeing across the states that more and more parties are being run by patriots. Yes. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Well, I agree with you. And let me just say one thing, Andrea. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, sweetie.
A third party is not the way to go. I tell people all the time, if there was ever an opportunity to start a third party, it was after Donald Trump, after the election was stolen in 2020, and he was run out of the White House and run out of DC, and they were going to try to imprison him and do all the things that they were going to do. He could have gone and started a third party at that point, but he didn't. He stuck it out because he realized the way to affect change was to work within the two-party apparatus that we have right now. And that's why we're still here. A third party is not the solution. You work within the two parties. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it, but if you want to be part of the Democrat Party, something is wrong. You're psychological. And
exactly.
To go get
they need mental health, for real.
Yes. I love how when you started, Amy, you said, I don't do crack. And my kids, because of Dave Chappelle show, we always have that joke. Crack is whack. Crack is whack,
right.
Y'all.
Crack is whack.
But when you were talking about dark MAGA, I remember you coming on the show back then and talking about that, because I thought that was hysterical. And I was so proud of y'all for being dark MAGA to those people.
I know, right?
You gotta make shirts.
I've been
dark MAGA. I'm
dark MAGA. I've been doing a ton of coverage, and I have some friends, I could tell you offline, Charity, some people in our group that keep yelling at me with what I post and what I say, because they're calling me black pillar. I'm a black pillar.
I've got
Trump.
That too.
Even
Andrea.
long before Trump was in this office, I had people saying, you can't criticize this and this and this, because all we need is him to get knocked. And I say, listen, if I can't have a conversation about top things and criticize the people in office, even Trump, then what are we? I'm not going to be just lockstep and compliant with things that I don't align with.
If you can't look at things realistically, and if you are a follower like that, I'm sorry, but that is cultish. And I am not part of a cult.
Yeah.
President Trump may endorse people, and I personally do not think he should do any more endorsements. I don't
Me
think
too.
he gains anything from it.
Mhm.
But just because President Trump endorses somebody does not mean I endorse them.
Exactly.
I have the ability to think on my own and
Mhm.
to be, to carve my own path or my own lane, whatever, and do my own thing. And that's what we need to do. But I want to take it a step further too, because can you believe that? I mean, President Trump, we're a year and a half in to his term now. We have 2.5 years left. One of my biggest regrets, so I got involved in the Tea Party movement and electing members, talking about electing true conservatives and fighting in the primaries and congressional and Senate races all the way back to 2009, up until we took the Senate back in 2014. And then 2015 is when I got on with President Trump and we started Women for Trump and all the things. My biggest regret through all of that is losing sight and not being engaged in the congressional and Senate races. Because this is the thing, a president can go there for 8 years, right? He can serve in the White House for 8 years. Members of Congress can be there a lot longer, and they are the ones that actually make law. And the grassroots movement, we really need to hone in on this, and we need to focus on getting the right members of Congress elected to the House and the Senate, because that is more important than anything that we possibly do. They are the lawmakers. They are the ones that literally write the laws, go through the committee process, all those things. That's where we need to have the most influence. And people need to come back to our roots, get back to the basics, and focus on the Congress and the Senate, because that is what truly impacts this country. An executive order has no enforcement mechanism outside of the agencies, outside of the departments, Department of Health, Department of Transportation. There's no enforcement mechanism.
No.
But Congress, they are the lawmakers, and that's where we need to take back our parties, and we need to make sure that we elect the right members of Congress in the House and the Senate, because that is what impacts this country more than anything.
Yeah, we say that all the time. An EO does not make a presidency, because the next regime can come in and flip it all again. So,
and we've seen it time and time again.
Yeah. And Charity and I have a fun thing that we engage in called rhino hunting. I'm like the queen of rhino hunting, and I love it. And so you talked about having these certain questions you can ask to really immediately know if someone's a rhino.
Right.
And you talked about election integrity in the past. I was like literally booted out of being a political consultant in my state back then, because I was told by the party that I need to stop talking about the elections. And I said, excuse me? I'm never going to stop talking about the elections.
Right.
So that was what was going on back then. One thing I want to bring up is, because I'm working with the Geofight, and you guys go to the geofight.com, and they're a group of attorneys that are fighting geoengineering. But it's also right now the data centers. And I know that you're big on this, Amy, and I know you can elaborate much further than me. But that is one thing I was just on a call with a lot of these attorneys. And I talk about how we to make change in society, it's politically and it's legally in the courts, and as well as education. That's why we come on this podcast, because we got to get this information out to we the people too. But one of the biggest discerning, like the biggest question I think you can ask someone running in the Republican Party right now to find out if they're a rhino is their stance on data centers.
That's right.
Right.
What are they saying about data centers?
That's a telltale right there. That's a bellwether.
Yep.
It's true.
So I am the chair of a new organization called Humans First. And our purpose is to put guardrails, safety rails on these big AI, big tech companies. Big tech. These are the same conservatives that have censored and banned conservatives from social media for years. I'm sure that you both have been censored in some form or banned from some platform. I am still personally banned from starting a Facebook group for 219 million years on Facebook. I mean, but these companies AI is touching every aspect of our lives right now, and they have more money than God. And what people don't realize, this AI, there's a lot of good things with AI. There's a lot of good things with technology. I'm not anti-AI. I'm not anti-technology, but there needs to be guardrails in place. There needs to be laws and regulations. I've never advocated for more laws or regulations in my life. It goes against who I am as a conservative. But the reality is this these companies have no laws and regulations, and people are dying. These chatbots are being used in terroristic activity. I can give you 3 examples. The FSU shooting in April of last year, a chatbot with ChatGPT was used to plan that shooting. 3 minutes before the gunman took his first shot, ChatGPT was telling the gunman about the safety on the gun. There's a 36-year-old man in Jupiter, Florida, Jonathan Gavalis, whose chatbot wife told him to go to Miami International Airport, do terroristic activity, causing mass casualty. Thankfully, he failed. Then he went home and took his own life because she told him to. The shooting up in British Columbia back in the spring that took 8 lives and injured I don't know how many people, ChatGPT was used to plan that shooting. So we have terroristic activity going on that ChatGPT and other chatbots are being used to coordinate these things. And there needs to be, and the only reason we know about this is because of lawsuits that have been filed. There's no required self-reporting or transparency guidelines around any of this. And we need that desperately. But how that connects to the data centers, what people don't understand is these data centers, these hyperscale data centers, are the backbone and manufacturing of the AI economy. Data centers mean surveillance. This is where all the data is being collected and stored and trained for AI and to surveil the American people. And so what is happening is these companies are going into these communities, buying up all this land. They're hiding behind NDAs and shell companies. They're shoving this down the throats of the American people, and the American people have no seat at the table and no voice in this fight. And that has got to change. This reminds me of back at the very beginning of the Tea Party movement, when in 2009 and 2010, when they would go home for August recess and the town halls were happening, and you had all these citizens getting in the faces of their members of Congress and just railing on their members of Congress because they were not being represented. The same thing is happening now with these data centers. Their elected officials are being paid off under the table. There's all kinds of deals going on, and the people are angry about it because not only do they not have a say in the process, now you have this monstrosity that's going up in their community, and they've had no vote, no voice, no nothing. And the American people are over it, and they're not going to stand for it. And so that's how it connects to, that's how AI connects to the data centers. AI cannot exist without these hyperscale data centers, right? And that's fine. This is the greatest thing. If a community wants that hyperscale data center in their neighborhood, in their community, then by all means vote for it, bring it in, let them come in, build it. That's the choice you make. That is the democratic way, right? To have a vote. That is how this republic works. But that's not how this is happening. And that is the reason these data centers are these companies, these big tech companies. And there's only 6 global companies that are building these hyperscale data centers. But that's the reason they're hiding behind these NDAs and shell companies, because they know the American people don't want it. And so one of the things that Humans First is doing is we are working with these local groups all across the country that are fighting back against these data centers and fighting back against, their county commissions, city commissioners. I mean, it's local government. Most of this is not on a state level. It's local politics, and people don't know how to fight it. These are people that all of a sudden just woke up one day and was going to have this monstrosity in their community, and they need to know how to fight it. And so as an activist and doing that for 17 years, fighting government on every level, that's what we're going to do, is we're going to help these people just to have a say in their community and to give them a seat at the table and have a voice.
The brigades have been fighting the data centers in Oklahoma because, they're at the city council and the county commissioners where you first hear that they're coming in.
Yes.
What's interesting is they often, these data centers, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that the utilities that they need are more than the town is usually able to offer. And so the
Yes.
community around them suffers with blackouts, with water pressure that is non-existent, with brown water, and then often what it takes to fuel these data centers is passed off to the taxpayers and not the companies.
No, Charity, you're absolutely right. There's the energy issue, there's the water issue. I mean, here in Florida, it's one of the big fights with this Project Tango going on in Palm Beach County, I think it is. And then there's the noise pollution, the light
Yes.
pollution. There's all kinds of issues around these data centers, and people are just now waking up to it. They're just now waking up, realizing what is going on. And like in Georgia, we have a tax abatement. And that's the thing. This two things I want to say here before we get off here. The time to fight the data center is at the very beginning of the process, the zoning process.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize until after the zoning has been changed, and that's when they engage in the fight. You need to get in on it as soon as you can. And if you shut it, this is key too. If you shut it down in your neighborhood, don't think that you're shutting it down and it's just ending. That company is going to go and find a space somewhere around there to build that data center. That's why it's so important that these groups network together and support each other, and to show up at meetings and be engaged on these different fights, because they are going to do their best. These companies are going to do their best to get into that area in some way. So don't think that just because you shut it down in one place, they're going to move on. They're not going to. And that's why it's important to bring, to pull a thread between all these groups so that everybody knows what's going on. I think it's one of the most important fights, in our lifetime, this AI fight, and I'm tired of hearing, and I'm sure y'all have seen it on Twitter, if you're against data centers, you're for China, or if you're against, if you want rules and regulations around AI, you're supporting China because this is a race with China.
Typical Democrat tactic,
Yeah,
right?
no, but
All
this is the
names
thing.
and gaslight.
These are Republicans that are doing it now, because these data center companies or these big tech companies have paid everybody and their brother off. They have blanketed Washington, D.C., and even down to the county commission level
Yeah.
with the money. I mean, it's horrifying. I talked to people that have been in Washington a long time. They say they've never seen anything like it, because the money that is being poured in, and now you have these PACs, Leading the Future PAC, and these other big PACs that are being supported by these big AI companies. And what are they doing? They're getting behind candidates that are sympathetic to their cause. Which means they want no rules or regulations, or they want light touch, is how they're messaging it out of Washington and the White House. President Trump put out a framework where it's a light touch framework, and that means there's not a lot of rules and regulations. This is the equivalent of going and buying a car and having no brakes. Would that happen? Hell no, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And what I would say to these people that are pushing this China BS, you know what? If it's all about China, then why are we still selling chips to China? Why have we loosened the export controls? Because this is the thing. You can't be America first and China funded. Pick one or the other.
That's right.
But you can't stand up there and say that. You can't say, stop. You can't say, we have to win. And believe me, I want us to win on American innovation. We are America first. We are, the great United States of America. I always want us to win on American innovation. National security is the most important thing. Without national security, we have nothing. But don't stand up there and talk to me about selling our chips to China and then telling us that we can't have rules and regulations around these companies and that we have to build all these hyperscale data centers. Go look at the articles from 2 days ago about Lake Tahoe, where I think like 50 to 70,000 people can lose 75% of their electricity because of the data centers that in Nevada.
Well, that's where I live. I live in Lake Tahoe area.
So Andrea, and the thing is, these states, like in Georgia, we have this tax abatement where we have given we're giving them these tax incentives. By the time it sunsets, it's supposed to sunset in 2028. It started in 2018. None of us even knew what was going on. Nobody was paying any attention, but now we're being inundated with these data centers. By the time that program sunsets in 2018, the Georgia taxpayers will have foregone $4 billion in revenue. Now, imagine what $4 billion can do for the state of Georgia. Roads, bridges, hospitals, schools. There is so much. And instead, we're giving $4 billion to the wealthiest companies in the world. And guess what? One of our state senators did put up a bill this last cycle to get rid of the tax abatements. It passed in the Senate. It went to die in the House. So that policy is going to continue. And Georgia's not the only one. It is happening in states all across the country. Yeah. And these governors, we want the business. We want the business. We want the business. This is the thing. The majority of the jobs are in the construction phase. Once the construction phase ends, you're talking 10 to 15 jobs at that. And probably at some point, AI is going to take over most of those jobs. Yeah. So guess what? The taxpayers in the state now have given up their land, their resources, their taxpayer dollars, all the things.
And their health. Aaron Brockovich is getting involved in this. We need transparency. We need transparency for the health impacts with geoengineering and with this. This has been going on a long time. Data centers is new. Geoengineering, I mean, there was Operation Sea Spray in the 50s. Okay. So our government is not giving us informed consent. They're letting us be little rats in their little lab experiment. And they do not know. They, just like when they dropped Operation Warp Speed on us, they do not know this is an experiment and your family's being forced into it. And Aaron Brockovich is getting involved because people are getting sick.
Yes.
So between Aaron Brockovich and Sarah Connor, we have 1984 and Terminator on steroids happening in real life.
Yes, Skynet. Skynet is a very
I mean,
there's the existential threat. Yeah.
Why do you think the Senate
brought
the people? Were 3 years away from 1929. That was when the Terminator.
Charity texted that to me because my kids call me Sarah Connor. So she texted me the other day. She's like, "We're only 3 years away."
Every time you guys say AI, I'm like, have you read Revelation? That's a whole different story. The image of the beast that they gave life to, but that's a whole different story. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Amy, it was great having you on again. We'll have to have you on soon.
Thank you. I love y'all.
Yes.
Love you.
If you are frustrated with what's happening in the party, in your community, get involved. It's up to you. You're on earth at this time for a reason. You have a purpose. We can help you get involved with the party. We can help you get involved by doing the brigades in your community. Go to freedombrigades.com. Join us. Go check out our Patriot shops while you're there. When you buy from the big box stores, you fund your slavery with your money and with what they're doing to your body. So buy from Patriots. Be healthy and be smart. We'll see you guys next week.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye.